Greetings, everyone. Welcome to the Tuesday Tirade Entertainment Talk Show with myself and Mr. Tom Connors of Midnight's Edge After Dark, Midnight's Edge Espanol, Midnight's Edge Radio, excuse me, Midnight's Edge Archives, and of course, Midnight Snacks. How's it going, Tom?
It's going.
Okay. Well, I'm glad. I feel like I think we've already gone. We were going, and then we were going, and then we were gone. There are a lot of studio moves happening right now behind the scenes, a lot of stuff that really hasn't been fleshed out in front of human beings, but I think that's changing. I got a story that I'm going to be covering tomorrow that will basically, give some insight into one of the major corporations around these studios shifting stuff, but we do have some stories that we can cover. And something right in your wheelhouse, Tom. It has to do with monsters.
What's that?
There's a big company that for some reason has some kind of control over a particular version of a kaiju, or some kaiju, or a few kaiju, at least two kaiju. You have Legendary Pictures basically shopping around for another studio, but at the same time it seems like they're thinking about maybe making Godzilla, Kong, and some other stuff here with Warner still. Is that right? Am I getting it close?
Well, they fast-tracked Godzilla vs. Kong 2, it sounds like, and there was a point where we weren't even sure if they were going to be able to combine Kong and Godzilla again, because that version of Kong is owned by Warner Brothers, and of course, as you were pointing out, Legendary owns the American license to Godzilla and its characters.
Yeah,
and that's which are two separate entities, basically.
And isn't it kind of a weird thing? Because I think doesn't Godzilla fall under the control of Toho ultimately?
Initially, yes, but that's why I say the American license.
Yeah, it's very strange, right?
And after the Godzilla vs. Kong film, Legendary's license was technically up, as was the deal with Warner Brothers. So they were looking at diverging. But Legendary was lucky enough to acquire another few years on the license for Godzilla.
Right.
So for a bit there, it looked like they were going to go off on their own direction, doing their own thing. And then Warner Brothers was going to continue doing Kong stories with generic monsters.
Mm-hmm.
But with the success of Godzilla vs. Kong, I think it makes 100% sense, or absolute sense, or however you want to put it, for the two teams to work together and make another one of these films. Because, even when it was said and done, they were like, well, we don't know when they're going to meet up again, if they'll meet up again. It was supposed to be kind of like this Avengers thing, and then they would move on to do their own stories. But clearly with the movie making as much as it did in the box office in the midst of the COVID, I mean, you and I both argued the movie probably could have made $1 billion.
$1 billion. Yeah. They missed out on a giant payday. And you know what? They're paying the price for that. And again, you can point towards Jason Killar's short-sightedness, or, the people who were giving him advice, like Ann Sarnoff and others giving him advice. The last thing they should have done is A, release it when they did, B, release it how they did, and C, piss off Legendary to boot. So There was a lot of bad things that happened because of this. But at least there's some good news. We'll get more. Plus, we know for a fact that Legendary will continue to work with Warner Brothers when it comes to Dune. So at least they're stuck in that one too.
Yeah, and that's already set to start filming. But the fact that they've already started filming Godzilla V2 or Godzilla versus Kong 2 just goes to show that I think Zaslav pushed that ahead.
Yeah.
Because they saw the success the first film was. And so
it's not debatable. I mean, Dune has the opportunity to be a giant blockbuster. It's not.
Well,
debatable.
Dune, I think they were a little more resistant on. It was Kong and Godzilla made more sense to me, right?
Right.
Like this whole squabble of them going, well, maybe we will, maybe we won't, kind of thing in the future, but we're gonna go do our thing, and Kong's gonna go do his thing, whatever.
I think a change of leadership kind of helps with that too. Smooths things over, right?
Well, as we know, Legendary was not happy about the whole Dune Kong situation, and even more so I can understand by Kong, because as we pointed out, they left a lot of money on the table.
So, and we come back to that every single time, is how much money they left on the table.
We'll never be able to actually say that's the problem.
Yeah, but at the time that the film earned just extraordinary amounts of money for what it was dealing with. Plus the fact that it was essentially day and date, so people could watch it at home to stream it if they wanted to. Right? I mean, you would have thought it wouldn't have done as well as it did, and yet it did fantastic. And I thought it was better. It was obviously a better film seen in the theater. I think that's the case with almost every single big tentpole. And I think
it did about 35 million in VOD sales and all that stuff. Yeah. And DVD sales were around 13 million.
Yeah.
Blu-ray sales about 22 million.
Wow.
So
they tucked up about another 100 million in the sale.
Absolutely. While already having 468 alone.
God, I'm telling you, Tom, that thing should have made $1 billion at least. I don't know. It was a pretty good film. I mean, absent some, I don't care what anybody says, and everybody's going to argue with me. They always do when I say this. Was too many people, too many humans. I want to go full kaiju. Limited humans, like 4. That's it. And I don't want them to talk a lot, and I don't want them to be doing a lot. Monsters. Speaking of wanting monsters, we got a lot of folks joining us this morning, about 40 or so, 42, 43 so far this morning. We got Darren Hughes out there. Morgan King's hanging out. Dr. Dragon, Siege Perilous, of course. Commander Red Straker of Shadow, Duck Nation. We've got just another red shirt. Hail, Mr. Shirt. Olaf Von S., our good buddy Keith Howard. I hope you're doing well, my friend. And let's see. Dapper Bard Games is here. Let's see. Oh, and so is Captain Fandom Nerd. Greetings. Hey, Runner's here. Tom, say hi to Runner.
Hey, Runner. How you doing?
Yeah, D. Bud Martin. Roll Tide, Mr. Keely Chow. Roll Tide. Zacharat's here. What's up, Zacharat? Biggles is here. What's up, Biggles? And we've got Emotionally Unstable Amphibian. Great to see you, my friend. Keck 44 is in the house as well. Let's see. Lord Thoth is here, along with his wrench. There he is. And GEOMK here for Dude on Dude. All right. Well, there you go. I'm not sure how that works, but all right. Let's see. War Monkeys out there in the world. Hamdinger's here because Tom is here. That's right, Hamdinger. And Cody Guy's joining us. Darius sends us a super sticker. Thanks for that, my friend. $1.49 super sticker. Much appreciated. And of course, TZ Burton's here. Gosh, look at all these wonderful humans, including Becky Browand. Hope you're doing well up in that Ohio area there. Hope you're getting ready for some football. Looks like, let's see, Soul Assassin's here, the Chatimal. What's going on? Kareen is here. Good to see you, dear. And a few other folks rolling in, like Dragon Master 360. And of course, Ruben is here. Ruben Christopher Haynes. Hope you're doing well. Theme Park Casuals in the house. A few other folks rolling in. If I missed you, it wasn't for any other reason, then I just didn't see you, or we just are moving along. So, all right. So with that, we've got changes for sure over at Warner Brothers. They're not going to be as buddy with Legendary. Where do you think Legendary looks next? Do they look at Apple?
Well, I was gonna say they've been kind of chummy with Apple lately.
Yeah.
But they're gonna want a domestic distributor to work with.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It depends. Who else have they worked with? Haven't they worked with just about
Universal.
everybody?
Yeah, and I think
Universal
and
mainly.
and I know they had a little bit of stuff they did with Paramount, but I feel like Paramount has enough partners right now, and there are people that are getting a little skittish when it comes to Chinese money here in this country.
Well, Paramount is pimping themselves out like a motherfucker.
I
Because
know.
I got an Amazon package today, chock full of Nick Jr. shit all over it.
Oh boy.
So, and it was like, oh, you can get Nick Jr. on Amazon streaming now. It's like, well, aren't they doing some deal with fucking Walmart too? So,
Hey,
like, yeah.
they're opening all of it up. They are opening it all of it up. I know I've been talking about this for a few weeks. I know you have too. I know Andre has. There's a massive shift happening, and this at the studio level. And again, I have a story for tomorrow that specifically talks about a massive shift at a big company that I don't think a lot of people's paying attention to. And you're gonna see this happen across the board. Zaslav's not the only one out there. I mean, really, when it comes to kind of shaking things up. So, but I think Legendary ends up with Apple. I think you end up with even more projects there, right? And a lot of like direct to streaming, pay for activity kind of things because that'll help Legendary.
Maybe television wise, but they still need a film
Eh,
distributor.
well, and I think maybe they'll go back to Universal for that. And
That's what I'm
you know what?
saying. Yeah.
That's a marriage made in heaven. I mean, you got a lot of monster history over at Universal. So we got our good friend Bama grad for $10. Thank you for that, my friend. Saying hail Culture and happy belated birthday, Tom. Culture, I need direction to the direction. I need direction. The Aaron Gray signed photo. I want it dedicated to you. So what? If so, what do you want it to say? Roll Tide. Wow, my friend. Thanks for the $10 super chat for that question. Um, uh, to
Have her put her phone number on it.
No.
Hey, that works.
Yeah, but the boss will kill me.
She means she's not a freebie or a hall pass or whatever you call it.
Man. She's on that list, but you know better than that, dude. You know better than that. Let me think about it. I promise I'll get back to you, Bam McGrath.
Come on, that was clever though. She'd be like, oh, this is for my friend. And she'll be like, oh, what do you want it to say? He says, just sign it with your phone number.
I don't know, to my favorite culture warrior. I don't know. I'll think about it. Thanks, Bamagrad, for that. Oh wow, we hit the pause button on the show, and I
made him flabbergasted.
Yeah, flabbergasted. That's a big word for you, Tom. Flabbergasted. College word. I don't know.
Not really.
It sounds like it. I know this much. I know that we still have shifts going on, right? So we go back a few weeks, or not even that long, but you and I had been talking about this little entity that liked to call itself a network. They'd been several different things, and they ended up being a combined thing, and that turned out being called the CW, right? Because you kind of pushed a little bit of Viacom CBS together with a little bit of Warner, and you ended up with this other network entity called the CW. And it has been, outside of a few standout shows, pretty much and also ran, and kind of the kid you hide in the closet, right?
To be honest, it should have been a canary in the coal mine for these guys to realize that running their own personal network outside of cable or doing their own, proprietary streaming service probably is not going to be very profitable. like, we've pointed out several times over, the only reason Netflix and Amazon were making money in this game was because they had the other studios, you know, bringing in all these things, and they were the only two real people in that had any, real horses in the race, and Hulu with the television side of things in the US at least. And once you start adding a Paramount Plus, an HBO Plus or Max or whatever, and a dozen other proprietary services, and you're making your own movies and you're putting them on your own services, and you only got a couple million subscribers, that's not going to pay the bills. And as we've learned from Netflix, there's kind of a ceiling on the amount of people you're going to get to sign up for this, and the churn starts, and from there, it's only a downward slope, right? I mean, you can't keep people forever on these services. It's not like cable where you're kind of locked in. You know what I mean? Because I'm willing to bet that a lot of people never canceled their cable back in the day because they knew that the bullshit they were going to have to go through to get it hooked back up again.
Right.
In this case, unlike cable and satellite, when it comes to streaming, you can cancel and sign back up. At any given time, you can create a bunch of different emails, use your kid's email, get a free month out of it. People are not dumb, and they'll take advantage of the system.
And you don't blame them for it, You really don't. But the reason that I bring it up is because, the CW has decided to flesh itself out as its own entity. And I'd say it's about time. And
it's under Nextstar now, isn't it, though?
Exactly. Yeah. When the minute that Nextstar went out and got themselves this thing, and again, I mean, we'll revisit the idea that Warner Brothers and I guess at this point it's Paramount Global, but those two entities still have 12.5% each tied into this thing. This was a $0 trade, basically. They said, here, take this problem away from us. We're going to hang on to this little percentage of ownership.
That just tells you how much they were losing on this venture.
Yeah. So they handed this over to our good friend, Nextstar, right? And Nextstar is like, hey, we're a huge group of affiliates. We have some understanding at how to program because we've been programming outside of the normal hours of these stations anyway. Because again, just like with the networks, there's only a certain number of hours that, they're actually programmed by the main network itself. So here you go. The CW's widened their programming scope to include sitcoms and procedurals. So they're basically fleshing this out, and they're doing it with their own stuff. They're going to start doing outside testing studio deals, and which means they're going to go out and get other people's stuff to put on their station. They've got the Hat Pin Society thing from Rachel Bloom. They're working on a lot of things that aren't from the CW line of programs, which means, as I said this morning during the 6 Minute Daily, bye-bye Greg Berlanti.
Well, and as I kept asking you before, once this Nextstar group takes over, don't they have their own programming that they're probably going to fill up the schedule with? And that gives, and I mean, it's not like Warner Brothers has really any incentive outside of what small percentage they still have in there to put their shows on there. But that was clearly what was going on, is they weren't selling enough ad space or getting enough attention on these shows to sell the type of ads they needed to constitute The Flash and Arrow and all these other shows that were probably a lot more expensive than most of their Gossip Girl type shit that they would put on there. And I think that was one of the Paramount properties, if I'm not mistaken. But, like Paramount had a few shows left on there, but it seemed like Warner Brothers was providing most of the entertainment anyway.
Yeah. And again, I mean, and they kept writing these big checks to, Greg Berlanti's production company to make these shows, right? Which they essentially handed him the license for to use with all.
Well, that's kind of what it became over the last few years. Was kind of like the
Berlanti channel,
the Berlantiverse channel. Yeah.
Yeah. And look, they're moving miles and miles away from that outside of obviously the Superman and Lois show thing, I think.
Yeah, but how many years do you think that really has left in it?
Two more.
I was going to say maybe 2 more at most.
Yeah. I mean, it's got as long as it maintains interest, and it's gonna there's gonna have to be some shift. And I know there's some other stuff on here. I mean, I know. I've often made fun of it, like, the Kung Fu reboot and the Walker reboot and all the other stuff. But they're going to dive more deeply into into their own programming, which they have. And they're fleshing out their own news network, Tom. That's part of the deal too.
I
So
didn't even know Nextstar did news, but yeah.
yeah, they're moving into.
To be honest, I don't know shit about Nextstar really outside of just kind of
They're a
tangentially.
giant,
Yeah.
affiliate group. But yeah,
I mean,
well,
as far as aren't they the ones who run like Me TV and shit like that or something
yeah,
like
I think
that?
that's one of their digits. Yeah,
Yeah, see, that's about the most I know about them, and I get it. I get what they are. They're kind of like the UHF channels back in the day.
Yeah, exactly. Except that they have bigger sites on.
And they had some hits with like that. What was it called? The grocery store shopping game show. I can't remember, and some other ones. I think on the Me TV channel.
Yeah, but it's one of those it's one of those times when these people have a plan. They are very well funded. They're in 116 of the most important markets
Well, this is
in
just basically an expansion for them.
the US. Exactly. But and here's the cool thing. This is the cool thing. Nextstar is based in Texas. It's right in the middle of the country. And they're going to produce a lot of content in Texas. So yeah, it's going to go very strange. It's going to go very strangely with these other networks going, how are you doing this? Well, they're doing it cheaply, right? And they're not paying, network prices, but they're delivering network material. I think it's going to be bigger than most people do. But I do find it interesting that they are going to be diving into like the full scope. So they have 75% of this deal. It's something that you and I were talking about forever. They intend to make the network profitable by 2025. So they have a plan. They have a plan. So and they talk about the shows that they may be hanging on to. But here's the thing that blew everybody's shorts up or skirts up or whatever you want to call it, was the fact that the average CW viewer on television, linear television viewer, was 58 years old. The shows they were making, like Riverdale, All American, Flash, et cetera, the Arrowverse stuff, those were supposedly targeting 18 to 34, and they weren't pulling that audience. That says a lot. So, but like I said, 12.5% will be held by Paramount Global and Warner Brothers Discovery for who knows how long. And we'll see what happens from there. I like I said, that I oftentimes felt like the CW was a way to sell programming to to acquire future syndication material. That's really all I thought it was. I thought that's what they both Paramount and Warner Brothers were using it for. But that is what
Looks
it
like
is.
the Sinclair group was involved in this at one point. Like I'm kind of going through their history right now. I'm trying to figure out.
Oh, are you talking about when they went to go acquire the billboard business?
Okay, like 4 Points Media was operating Nextstar
Right.
stations.
Right.
Sinclair Broadcast Group announced its intent of purchasing 4 Point stations outright and took over the MSA for the stations that October, which this would be in 2009. The FTC approved the deal. They gave final approval of the deal.
Yeah.
And so they bought 4 Points. I don't know what that has to do with Nextstar, though. But then they got into a dispute with Fox back in the early 2010s over rebroadcasting. And then they started expanding. It looks like here. I was just trying to get familiar with them.
Oh, well, I mean, they got into the outdoor business. They're primarily focused on television affiliates. They have a history of acquiring more. They bought WGN
Yeah, that I remember you telling me.
moved
No,
it to
yeah.
News Nation, I think, and they're fleshing out their own
Looks like their
news.
predecessors were Tribune Media.
Yep.
Um, that's the only one I recognize anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just kind of trying to get familiar with them a little bit here. I don't know much
Yeah, I
about
mean,
them.
and they had a history with WGN as a pretty spirited competitor, and then went out and bought them.
Okay, yeah, Rewind TV I'm familiar with.
Yep.
That's what the Me TV stuff I think was. My Network TV is also that stuff, I believe. Yes. So okay, yeah, I kind of have an idea. Cable News and Entertainment Network, News Nation, and Food and Cooking Networks. So wait, do they own Food Network and the Cooking Channel as well?
They own one of those entities. I don't know. I don't know if they
Ladder
own
2
both.
through 31% stake in Television Food Network. Okay. Yeah, because I know the Food Network and Cooking Channel have got to be fairly big money makers for them
They
on
do
cable.
really, really well.
Yeah, I'd imagine so.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and
okay,
that.
no, sorry. I just wanted to take a minute or two to kind of get familiar with them, and
Yeah, yeah,
I'm really
and
not quite exactly sure what they do yet. But
well, Nextstar owns about a third of Food Network. The other 2/3 are owned by Warner.
okay, so they've already been in bed with Warner before then. I
Yeah. Oh
mean,
yeah.
like it looks like they've been affiliated with a lot of the stations and stuff. All
Well,
right,
they.
yeah,
Yeah.
I kind of have an idea what they are.
Yeah. Yeah, they do really well. I mean, again, when they acquired Tribune Media, they kind of came into partnership with a lot of these folks. So, and they advertise News Nation as completely unbiased, Tom. So,
Yeah, I see that was one of their latter things coming in here at the end.
yeah, yeah, WGN. We've got our Warasi here, a $5 super chat here, or a Culture Casino coin. Say, just watch Clownfish's latest video. They state that the media websites that attack us all the time are owned by two different companies. Makes sense. Yeah. Does that surprise me or you, Tom? No, it doesn't surprise me. Does it surprise you, Tom? 32.
I was going to say you make that point all the time that there's basically the 2 or 3 big
It's a
media
handful.
conglomerates that kind of run everything. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's, I mean, you got all of the things are glued together, right? Kotaku and all these other entities are part of one thing or the other. Your Geo Media or your the BuzzFeed media folks, that group of crap. Could you imagine continually buying up companies and still losing value along the way, and then essentially at certain points of time having to shut down the thing that you just bought for $500 million?
Yeah, it happens all the time.
But it's dumb. That's just,
Well, it's when a company gets more money than they know what to do with, and instead of spreading it around through the company like they used to back in the 1950s and 60s, they turn around and they spend it on a bunch of stupid things they shouldn't, like companies that were going under already that basically try to present themselves as some, great investment when really nobody really needs flying shoes anymore. So you decide to invest, too much fucking money in flying shoes. The next thing you know, you're sinking the original company that made you all that money in the first place. This has happened to so many companies, and this is why they spin off companies into their own entities again. We saw this throughout the 80s and 90s, and especially, I'm sure Andre can comment a little bit on this from the investor side of things. We were just talking about how some of these companies, I said, when they get too overbloated and they have too much money on their books, instead of spreading it throughout the company like they used to back in the day, they'll just go out and acquire a bunch of stupid companies that are already going under, and that's why they affect the major company in the beginning to begin with.
It depends a little bit on the company's strategy, but that's certainly what happened with the Embracer Group, if that's what we're talking about.
Well, there's a few groups that you could put into that category. That's what's funny is you get a bunch of companies that have some big huge thing. And they're like, oh, look at all this extra money we don't know what to do with. Let's invest it. And then they buy up a bunch of companies that were going under as it was, and then wonder why they tanked their main company.
Well, the reason they do that, though, is because you don't want to have too much money, because no matter where in the world you are, the government's going to want some of that money for sweet, sweet cash.
Oh, and I get it.
In tax. So you want to lock it up somewhere where you still have the value, but you don't have to tax it for as long as it's locked up. So that's part of the reasoning. And then, of course, then it's a matter of where they choose to do that. And also, greetings, everyone. Hey, Culture.
Yeah. Welcome. I'm pleasantly surprised you're here. I was surprised
I
when you
always send him the link.
Thank you. No, you can always.
I always pop in when I can.
Yeah. Well, we started off talking a little bit about Legendary's, trying to find a new dance partner, as far as studios go, Legendary Pictures, and then we moved into the Nextstar discussion, talking about the fact that the CW is completely switching directions.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
Because even if there may be a new owner, why on earth would they keep doing what they were doing before, which was basically losing money hand over fist?
Yeah, and in the article we were covering, they talk about the fact that their goal is to be profitable by 2025.
Well, this makes sense, and to go back to what I was just talking about, as far as the other businesses we're talking about. We're talking about a business that would been in, like, say, making cereal, would turn around and buy a company that makes flying shoes. That was kind of the point I was getting to. In this case, you have basically the equivalent of a restaurant buying out more restaurants, and they're just going to start spreading out what they're already doing to these other restaurants, right? This is a win for them. Right. For Warner and CW, this is a big loss, right? This is them admitting defeat. Because all Nextstar is going to do is what I said before, and you were basically telling me now, is move in their own programming, which they know already works in the markets they've been doing it for the past 20 plus years. So it's just them expanding some more and more and more. And they're penetrating the market quite well, it seems like. So it makes sense for them. And for Warner Brothers, why should they keep sinking all this money into original programming that's not bringing in anything anyway?
That's why, like I said, I'm very much enjoying the fact that they are going to move forward. Nextstar is going to move forward with their own set of sitcoms, procedurals, scripted, unscripted. Obviously, they have a lot of unscripted business. They're moving forward with their own news programs and news network and expanding that. So they'll be able to do their own news breaks with their own people. So they'll be able to treat it just like it was supposed to be treated all along, which is as its own network here in the States. So, instead of I want to say I want to say that the way that Paramount and correct me if I'm wrong, Andre, but that Paramount and Warner were using CW as like a content shell for future syndication programming or something.
I think that was part of it, but I also think it was. It obviously didn't start out that way. I think it started out as like, this is going to be our young adult wing, because a lot of content went there, and then they started with like, okay, we're going to diversify, so we have different networks doing different things, and this is how we're going to reach the young adult market. I think that's how they started. But at some point, like, I don't know this, I just like imagine that at some point it also became their virtue signal / woke cover,
right?
Something that's nice to have because it shields them from activists, because then they can have like proper drama and stuff like that elsewhere,
right?
Because from a corporate point of view, they still have all of this woker than Wokerton stuff on the CW. They can like point to that, see, look how virtuous we are. Now, please get off our back ears around all this other stuff we're doing. So I think it was something that in this environment was practical to have, because it didn't make them any money, but it also didn't make them any enemies. If anything, it made them look really good and virtuous to a certain crowd.
Right.
I imagine there was an aspect of that there. I could be wrong.
Well, maybe in the end here, but like, I think initially when they started,
this was it didn't start out that way.
Because when I made that point earlier, before you got here, Andre, what I compared it to is the streaming stuff right now. It was Warner and Paramount looking at the money that they were making off the, selling their shows to CBS, NBC, and ABC, and going, well, fuck, if we make our own network and we just keep all the revenue, then we don't have to worry about it. Well, they didn't take into consideration the cost it was going to go into to building a network, and that's why they combined with Paramount, because they thought, oh yeah, well, we can do our own thing together then that way. And they still weren't making enough money off the advertising because they just didn't have the reach or the affiliates. You know, this was my main problem growing up. I didn't see the first few seasons of Smallville until later on because I could not get a WB station where I lived. I could get a UPN station, but I couldn't get a WB station.
Yeah, I think that.
And it wasn't until they became the CW that I finally got to see Smallville, and then I had to catch up on the first 5 seasons in syndication on HDNet.
Well, they joined their affiliate networks is what happened.
Yeah, so like, you know, that's kind of what it was, is there, so they thought they were going to, and you're right, part of it was to appeal to this younger adult demographic, Andre, that is there. But I think what had happened was the woke stuff just came in because they were just trying to appeal to the younger demographic.
But it never
worked. With you.
It never worked out that way, Tom. I mean, all you had to do was look at the demographics, which I read just a few minutes ago, that the average age of the audience was 58.
Well, that's because all it was watching that channel. Let's be real. For the years outside of Smallville, their biggest hit was Supernatural. Who was watching Supernatural? 35 to 55-year-old women. That's who.
And they only got older.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
I mean, that show ran for what, nearly 2 decades?
So yeah, almost 12 seasons, I think it was, or 13, something like that.
It was a lot. It was 15 years, I think.
And then I think they even still tried to tie it in with the Berlantiverse because it technically was based on a DC comic, wasn't it?
I can't even speak to that. Because I had no interest.
Pretty sure it was.
You know what? We often say this, but that show was not made for me.
Neither was it for me, but I'll tell you what, women love that fucking show. There isn't one woman I've ever dated or known who doesn't sit down every time Supernatural's even on in syndicated repeats, and they'll watch that shit.
15 seasons.
They sure will.
They love the shit out of it.
Yeah. Well, it's gone now, and I'm glad, to be honest with you. And Padalecki got old. He went off to make Walker, and that doesn't.
Well, that's part of the reason they love it, right? Is because of the 2 hot guys you got. It's a win-win-win for all the women in the crowd, that's for sure. For men, this is like, I liked it better when it was called Scooby-Doo, you know. It's like,
so, look, we've got Andre here, so I have to bring this up because Tom Serval brought it up. It says nobody is talking about the Sandman.
We did a video on it.
Yeah, we did a video. I'm happy to talk more about it. I just bring up, ask anything, and I'm happy to go into it in detail.
Are you watching the show, Andre?
I have seen the show.
Wow. Really? What did you think?
I thought that the scripts, and now forget about the execution, forget about the filming, forget about the cast, forget all of that. Now we're just talking about the scripts.
Okay.
The scripts, as they're written, are absolutely fantastic.
Oh, wow.
It is one of the most true adaptations of a comic, especially a comic that is as out there, as ethereal, as... I'm looking for the right adverb here. As any adverb that you can think of, as Sandman.
Right.
You would think it would be really, really challenging to put that to the script. And they have done an amazing job with it. Like, really, I'm amazed at how good they were able to write those scripts. It is seriously some of the best adapted material I have ever seen in script form. Like, I'm blown away. That was the script. Now we're getting to the point where you actually film the thing. And here is where you get into colorblind casting that appears to be colorblind, but that isn't really. Because, like, minimum half the cast is BIPOC, whatever you want to call it, right?
Right.
Actually, a minority are the white ones. And there's one exception, though, and that's like every single bad and nasty character, everyone who is villainous in any way, shape, or form, guess once to find out which color they are.
Yeah, I don't have to.
Yeah, no, exactly. You don't have to. So in the casting, the whole thing has become insidious. It's become toxic in the casting and in the execution. And it's such a shame because on the just in the writing, it's absolutely fantastic. And it's actually really, really good for like the first 6-7 episodes.
Really?
I actually recommend it
Okay.
for the first 6-7 episodes. But but then you get into the Dollhouse storyline, and that storyline too is reasonably faithfully adapted.
Okay.
But this is where the so-called colorblind casting really comes into play. And one of the reasons why you can give the Sandman a pass for
Mhm.
much of the quote-unquote wokeness that is there on screen is because it was there on the page in 1990 as well.
Right.
Only it wasn't woke, it was queer. I've
Right.
always maintained that the Sandman comic books in your library, they will fit as well in the LGBTQ section as they will in the graphic novel and comic book section, because that's what they are. They've just chosen to like focus on families and dynamics where you have an excess of gay relations. That was
Is it-
something that was always there, and then they gated it up even more in the adaptation.
So does it actually feel like the books though?
Yes.
Wow. All right. I may give it a shot then. And that's there's
Well,
people in the
this is
chat.
like the point where I would say that you say you usually give things 3 episodes.
Yeah.
Give this one up until they get to the dollhouse. That's
Okay.
where you exit. So you give this one like 6-7 episodes thereabouts, and then you exit.
Okay.
And up until then, it's actually really, really faithful to the stories of the comics. And
Okay.
yeah, it's good up until that point.
But you know what? You sold me on at least 6 or 7 episodes. So well done,
Yeah,
Andre. Because
yeah,
I
yeah.
was avoiding it like the plague, and I was wondering why people were avoiding the talking about it. And look, I mean, there's a lot of great gay, queer, whatever words you want to use there, content out there that's easily consumable.
I think
Um,
part of it's because Sandman has never been mainstream enough
you think?
to really. Yeah, I think it's see that's a comic that I'm aware of. I've always been aware of, but I've never
Exactly,
read
Tom.
the damn thing.
You are completely right. The Sandman, it's incredibly renowned, it's incredibly recognized, and it's read by very, very few. If you go to like your local comic book retailer and you ask about Neil Gaiman's Sandman, everyone there will have heard about it. Everyone will know that it's this amazing thing. Now you ask those same people to tell you what the story is and see if they've actually read it. There you're going to get a lot of blank stares, because a hell of a lot more people are aware of it than have actually read it. I submit that of like all major comic books and stuff like that, very few have actually read Sandman.
Because
So
I
it's something that's known far more than it's actually read.
I read many of them. I'm not sure I can claim to have read them all, everything about it. But Vertigo was a very adult oriented or mature audience kind of a
Yeah,
comic.
like the whole Vertigo brand was built around Sandman, actually. It was built around Sandman and John Constantine Hellblazer.
Yeah. Actually, Lord Thoth brought that up. Lucifer, Hellblazer, Sandman. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
I man, okay. I'm intrigued a little bit, so I'll take a look at it, and I'll be prepared to pull the ripcord the appropriate
And
time.
that's the thing that's like so disappointing, because if you just had tweaked the casting a little bit, this could have been one for the ages.
Hmm. All right. It's funny. You said something a minute ago. It sparked a memory just from the other day when I with the boss and I were filming our She-Hulk review. A lot of people are aware of comic book stuff, right? A lot of people have been made aware of comic book things, especially
Yeah.
because of the big tentpole films and everything. But they don't actually have like real context for what they know about a character.
No, exactly.
So I think that's some of the problems when it's one of the reasons why the comments are made about fake geeks and fake geek girls, fake geek guys, whatever, is because those people they have a tangential interest. They're familiar or conversant in the subject, but they may not have actually consumed it outright.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot to be said for that.
Yeah, and I think that's very true for the Sandman, because again, every comic book fan will be aware of Sandman. Everyone will be aware that it's this amazing thing.
Yeah.
Few comic book fans
It did.
have actually read it.
And you know what, the main stuff here that I'm seeing in the comments, right, is kind of summed here by Ellie Yap. It says I love the Sandman comic books. I didn't mind the LGBT themes, but I couldn't get past the bad casting. And
Exactly.
I think that that's kind of what you were saying, and I think that's what a
Yes.
lot of the folks in the chat were saying.
Yeah. It's been made toxic by some of the casting.
Yeah, Michael Jackson.
Not all the casting. Like, for instance, we've already covered that John Constantine, which I think is like the biggest problem here, was never going to be in the series. But it didn't have to be Johanna Constantine. That was a creative choice that they made, and it was a bad choice, you ask me.
Okay, I like Constantine, right? And I'm weird because I actually appreciated what Keanu Reeves did with the character in the film that he was
I
in.
like it too. It's not Constantine, but I like it.
I know, but I enjoyed that, right? At least it brought some elements of this idea to the mainstream at the time.
Yeah.
Do you? I know you have your finger on the pulse of this. Are we going to get a real fleshed out Constantine thing ever? Because everything that I've seen up until now has been like also random.
Not for a very long time,
dude.
Not for a very long time. I would really like that to happen, but between J.J. Abrams and his Constantine, which thankfully by all accounts is not going to happen, but also the Sandman thing, and who knows how that's. Actually, I think it depends a lot on this Constantine, because there's some people that want to do like a female Constantine spin-off of this series, which I hope doesn't happen, because that would be a mistake.
Based on the numbers that it's likely going to be ultimately reported, I don't know how they would be able to do that. But
I don't even know that there's going to be a season 2.
I don't think there's a season 2, but
because
go ahead. I'm sorry, Andre.
Yeah, no, because Neil Gaiman himself, he tweeted like recently that if you want a season 2, you have to watch it, and you have to watch it till the end. And that he tweeted that tells me that right now it's not doing too hot, because they spent too much money on it. And you can tell, like, this is something that was a lot of money was spent on it, but I don't think that money was spent very wisely.
I'd heard that there were great visuals in it. So, like I said, I will be prepared to pull the ripcord about 6 or 7 in, and just be happy to move along. But Master Sidearms points out something that I'd also heard, is that Neil went after those who were critical of the casting choices. In a way, Neil kind of buried the artists on the comics with said defense. Yeah, because
and that's kind of where the difference between woke and progressive come in, right? Like, because Andre said from the start that the book was, queer or gay. Like he said, you'll find it in the gay section at your comic book shop. It's been that way for always, right? Like, but the difference is the complaints that the people who are actually familiar with the characters are having is what they did to the characters, and that's where it sounds like the woke issues coming in, right, Andre?
Yes, exactly. Not just the characters; it was like in the casting, they went excessively.
Well, that's what I mean.
Diverse. Yeah. So it's like that's where the issue is, and most of the actors are actually really, really good. But still, in most cases, I thought it was distracting, and in some cases, it was very distracting. In other cases, it actually was really, really good. Like, for instance, for the character of Desire, they cast an actor who I do not recall his name right now, but he identifies as a they, them. And he's one of the best ones in the whole series, because he's just like cast absolutely perfect. And the characterization of this character, who's also a they, them in the series, is absolutely perfect, because that's exactly how the character was in the comics as well. So it's like, but then you have like other things, like, for instance, Lucifer.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of the Lucifer comic books, more so than I am of either Constantine or Sandman.
Mhm.
My favorite of the Vertigo books are actually the Lucifer books. To me, they are the most underrated ones and the most deserving of a spin-off. But that's definitely not happening. For one thing, it was ruined by that stupid Lucifer series. And I mean, no disrespect to those that like it. If you liked that Lucifer series with Tom Ellis or whatever his name is, if you liked that, then I can only imagine you must never have read the comics. You just liked the series on its own, and awesome, happy for you. But having read the comics, I don't have words for how much I fucking hated that series. To me, it's utterly unwatchable and a sheer insult. And between that and the gender bending of Lucifer here, we're never going to get a proper Lucifer. And that's a shame, because that was the most compelling thing about the whole Sandman comics. And the way that Lucifer is written here is actually really good. Like, I'm excited to see what they would do in season 2 when they get to Seasons of Mists. I'm just not entirely happy with the gender bent casting there.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like what offended me the most, is like those characters where you have the spin-off potential, they are the ones that you want to get right. And even so, they weren't saved from gender bending and what have you not.
Wow.
And then Simon Parkin wonders, Andre, what do you think of the extra episode of The Sandman that was released?
Mhm.
Because, yeah, there was one more episode that was released which deals with 2 issues. So it's like a 2-parter, in that it's like one episode, but it's 2 stories in it. One is the one about the cats dreaming of a world without humans, which I think was really, really good. And the other is an episode about a writer who holds a muse captive because he's out of ideas otherwise. I thought that that thing right there was extremely revealing of the mindset of the series and those having it. Because here you have a writer, and this is a writer who lucked out with writing one book, and then he was out of ideas. He can't do anymore. He's pre-sold his second book. The publisher, they're going to want like their $700,000 advance back real soon, and he doesn't have a single idea. But then he comes across a muse. And this is a muse that he has the option to either let go and give her freedom, or to dolphin love her and keep her captive and force her creativity onto him. And this is what he does. So basically, this then is a person who has a female sex slave locked up in his basement.
Wow.
And this is the person, and this is what I liked about it. This is where the showrunners and everything, they unintentionally showed their true selves. Because this guy, he then gets all of the muse's abilities and gifts. So he gets all these ideas, he writes all of these amazing books, and then he even gets a movie deal. And there they make a point that this guy, who again, he keeps a woman locked up in his basement, he gets to virtue signal and say that I demand that in the movie adaptation of my book, at least 50% of the cast will be diverse, and we are to announce it and virtue signal to the press so that the movie studio can't go back on it.
Wow.
I just thought that was really revealing. There you have the absolute predator and the worst human being you can possibly imagine, and that's the one doing the virtue signaling.
Well,
Fairly typical, though, but yeah.
Yeah, well, honestly, I mean, we can't talk about the fact that most of the people who create great things are parasitic elements of society. But Master Sidearms asked a question, and then I think we can slide on to something that was a little bit of breaking news just an hour or so ago. What was better, Sandman Season 1 or American Gods?
I never saw American Gods, can't say, never even read the book, so I don't know.
Fair enough.
But I will say that I did prefer Good Omens to Sandman. Good Omens is another Netflix series.
Did you enjoy Good Omens?
Hmm?
Did you enjoy Good Omens the first season?
I did, yeah.
Yeah, I did too. Did they? I don't know that they got a second season out. I know they greenlit a second season.
No, I think they greenlit a second and a third season.
Oh wow. Okay.
Because Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman, they had the idea for a second book, but in order to get to that second book to tell the story between the two, that's going to require yet another season. So season 2, it's like the story between the book that was and the book that never was, and then season 3 is the book that never was. I think that's how it goes.
Yeah, and I'm right there with you. I kind of enjoyed Good Omens. I thought it was enjoyable. But I'm one of those weird guys. Like I still think if we could find a competent writer to do an adaptation that would honor the source material, I still think Anne Rice's book Memnoch the Devil should be turned into a film or probably a television show. To be honest with you, I think that was so well done. But anyway, I'm a freak show when it comes to that.
Oh,
this is fucked.
We all are, aren't we?
I see where this Michael Jackson talk is coming from now. I guess this is, I don't know if you knew this before or not, Andre.
Well, being Dream?
Wanting
to be Dream?
Actually, he was wanted to play Morpheus.
Okay. Oh, really? So do you have it ready to go, Tom?
Yeah.
All right. There you go.
By 1996, I was being taken to Warner's, where the then president of Warner Brothers sat me down and told me that Michael Jackson had phoned him the day before and asked him if he could star as Morpheus in the Sandman. So wow, there was a lot of interest in this, and they knew that it was one of the crown jewels. And what did I think? And I'm like, ooh. By 1990,
I guess that's all we got.
That's a shame. I really want to know what the balance of that was. There was a point in time that I really had a lot of respect for him. I don't know. His public statements recently have really weighed.
Honestly, that we probably missed something with that. I bet it would have been an interesting take on it.
Oh, I think it'd have been incredible.
I have to say that one of the casting choices I like the least in the whole series is, what's his name, Tom Sturges or something? Is that the guy who plays Dream or Morpheus?
I wouldn't be able to tell you, sorry.
Anyway, I think it's like Sturgis or something like that. Anyway, the guy who plays the lead.
Yeah.
He freaking sucks.
Well, that's the thing, is Michael Jackson was a better actor than people give him credit for. Like, if you watch some of the longer forms of the videos and some of the other stuff that he has done, he was actually a pretty decent actor.
Consider how long you had. Thriller was a 22-minute film.
Yeah, well, I mean, just look at The Wiz and some other things he did do, right? And like you said, the Thriller video and some other things.
Captain EO, right? That
the Captain EO thing. If you got lucky enough to see that,
yeah. Man, yeah. I like you said, it's another missed opportunity for the world that we'll never get back. But it's interesting.
I feel like there was a bunch of cool movies he could have done back in the day that he never got a chance to.
Or had he been alive now, he could.
Nah, he'd been way too old now.
Up until recently, when he got too old. But I have one piece of breaking news. I'm not sure if you guys saw this. It just got out a couple hours ago. I'm not sure anybody's going to care here, but it is breaking news. We got Ben Kingsley is going to be reprising his role as Trevor Slattery in Marvel Studios' Wonder Man series over at Disney Plus.
Okay, cool.
I was gonna say, weren't they bringing him? They brought him back a few times, right? This is not like
this will be his
like fifth time back.
No, it's going to be
not that many, but close to
it. It'll be his fourth appearance, because first he was in Iron Man 3, and then he was in the short All Hail the King.
Yeah,
and then he was in Shang-Chi.
Yes,
and this would then be his fourth appearance.
Yeah, it's interesting. So I guess, as they started to flesh it out from when they announced it in June, we're going to get Wonder Man. So we'll have to see how it goes. And Kingsley's going to be returning as Slattery. I don't know that they fleshed that out any more than that. I find that interesting. But I love Ben Kingsley. I think he's a very talented actor.
Oh yeah, actually, I didn't mind Slatter. I'm one of the few people who enjoyed that.
Yeah, I enjoyed him too.
I don't know what a pepper is, but they gave me a lot of booze and drugs.
Yeah, I'm pretty stoked because again, he's one of those actors that can just do anything, and he's looked like he's 1,000 years old since forever.
Yeah, like he looked old when he.
Yeah,
it's just like certain other actors. He's always looked old, even when he was young.
When he played Gandhi,
yeah. I mean, he's looked old forever. There's no argument to be made there. But I think that looks really good. I think it'll be fun. Yeah, Rabbit Chicken, indeed. Yeah, that was so funny in Shang-Chi. That was the one thing that I really appreciated about that was the rabbit.
Somebody picked up on a plot hole between She-Hulk and Shang-Chi.
Oh, you're talking about the arm heel thing?
No, something to do with Shang-Chi.
Oh, the arm heel thing is actually addressed there. There's not the plot hole.
No. The fact that when she calls Bruce and he's in space already,
right?
But yet he has the cameo in Shang-Chi,
right?
Because this show is taking place simultaneously with Shang-Chi,
right?
Or shortly. Actually, it takes place shortly afterwards.
I thought it was simultaneously.
No, it was shortly afterwards.
Because him escaping is him supposed to be going to that fight, is what I thought that people were inferring.
No. He's already been to the fight and he's back in jail. So there's actually not a plot hole.
Well, I need to make that more clear then.
Well, I know that he portals in and out because Wong actually portals him in and out.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be the episode 3 version of She-Hulk. Sorry, guys, spoilers.
Yeah, probably. But yeah, no. Like the Gao said that She-Hulk takes place not simultaneous with, but shortly after She-Hulk. After Shang-Chi.
Well, then they need to make that more clear in the show itself.
It did look kind of strange, with the injury. I don't really feel like we know how far separated the accident was, where Bruce's arm got healed, and when she's in the courtroom trying to keep people from getting smashed with a desk.
Weeks,
you know what I mean?
Months? Yeah, we don't know.
It's very strange.
But so presumably it's not too many weeks.
Yeah, well, like I said, I mean, the boss and I released the episode 2 review today. I'm still surprised that I have a higher opinion of the show than she does. So if you want to watch her opinion, I think. Yeah, say again.
Or is it just me?
What happened?
Did Culture dip out on both of us, Andre, or just you?
No. Culture is here the whole time.
Oh, you're dipping out on me too. It's me.
That's you. Yeah.
No, like I said, it's out there, and I would encourage you to check it out. And then tomorrow I've got a story of just absolutely wild things. I really do think that we're on that turnaround that you were talking about very eloquently the last couple of Midnight's Edge in the mornings, Andre, where these studios are having to come to grips with the fact that they need to become profitable really fast.
Yeah.
So,
at least I got to enjoy something superhero that didn't make me want to slit my wrists.
What?
You guys need to watch The Samaritan. Everybody who's hyping this movie is
I have.
wrong.
Oh yeah, the Stallone movie.
Yeah,
you did watch it.
I've started it. I made it all the way through it. Yeah.
Oh my god, are you kidding me? I couldn't stop watching it.
Oh, it's okay.
It's okay, my ass.
It was fine.
You are not.
I haven't seen it yet. I saw the trailer. It looked okay.
You are not a man, Culture.
Okay, thanks. Appreciate that.
No, well, this is a movie that it feels like a throwback Stallone movie, big time. Like it even has a couple one-liners in it. I was like giddy like a little kid after seeing it. I'm like, now that's what I've been waiting for a while. Yeah, I loved it. So
all right. Well, I just want to say thanks to each of you for joining us today. I appreciate that for both of you.
Yeah, like Kitty Bear said, Samaritan is the best not superhero movie. Exactly.
I would encourage you to check out the film. So far, I think it's quite good. I'm about 1/3 of the way through it at this point. It
does take a few minutes to get going, but once the pace picks up, the movie just doesn't stop. The last hour is like nonstop.
Yeah. All right. Well, like I said, I really appreciate that recommendation. I appreciate both of you being here. Unfortunately, we've got to wrap up. A little bit of an abbreviated show. I want to say thanks to the audience out there. For those of you who sent supers, for all of you who are members, you guys are incredible. Is there anything you guys want to promote? I know there's a lot going on in your world.
Well, we got meat later on. I don't know, Andre, what else? We got a couple videos in the hopper.
We got a couple of videos in the in development here. We have like a huge epic Snyder verse video. Exactly what is going to happen with the Snyderverse and why. Well, we have some insider knowledge there, and we're going to break it down in detail the way that no one does better than us.
Well, I can't wait for that. Looking forward to it indeed. With that, like I said, I've got a video coming out tomorrow, a little bit more of the what's going on inside the studios to a certain extent, and some changes.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Nick Weiser's got Blazing Saddles tonight on Toxic Tuesday. I forgot about that.
Yeah. And so do check that out. With that, I'm going to say thank you very much, Andre. Appreciate your time, Tom. Everybody, I hope everyone has a great day. Be sure to take care of yourself. Take care of others. Wash your hands, of course, because it's good hygiene.
And where do white women at?
Until next time. Bye.